All right, so now that we've got a little bit of the introductions, the functions under a belt, let's have a closer look at this particular program. All right, this program is not necessarily complete, but I think we can actually get a lot of stuff out of this. So let's do that. Now, the first thing we need to understand a little bit about this is some basic geometry. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say determine the circumference of a circle. So determining the circumference of a circle is apparently 2 times pi times r. So let's have a look at this. And so what they're doing is 2 times pi times r. This line here, we're going to actually do that first in Python just to get the idea, because this is effectively Sam's take on coming up with a what did I say? A menu-driven thing that can basically calculate, for example, the circumference of a circle, the area of a circle, and so on, right? So, but let's kind of first of all get that idea of the circumference. So, if we knew what the radius was, so let's go float radius is assigned, and I'm just going to basically say it's assigned, I don't know, 2. Well, 2 inches, doesn't matter. We know that pi is a 3.14. Actually, it's very close to pi day today, so that actually was pretty timely. So pi 1416. So we're only going to go that far. So 1416. All right. Then we would know that the circumference. So the float. I'm just going to go circumference is going to be assigned 2 multiplied by the float radius multiplied by pi. All right, so first of all, let's run that dude, and let's get. It's always important to make sure that you get the guts of the thing working first. So in this case, the radius, if I was to put 2 in here and go tab off it, it's giving me 12.56. My little program did the same thing. All right, so we know that at least the guts of this thing is going to work. All right, so that's good. It's nothing to do with functions, but there you go. Now, a couple things here, by the way. Pi is actually here a constant. I imagine this will eventually become input, that comes from the users. Pi, we're not going to let the users determine what pi is. Imagine the chaos in that. So one thing I haven't brought up before, but in Python language, constants typically should be in uppercase to indicate to the world that those are constants. So just so you know, we're going to do that right now. Won't affect the processing, but there you go. The 2 is kind of a magic number here. I'm not sure I like it, but you know what? Maybe we could add some documentation describing what the formula of the function is. I don't like using documentation inside of this Visual Studio thing because that tends to create errors. But if this was like one of the other environments, I'd be using that. So with what we understand about functions now, how could we get this to be kind of cooler? Well, what we could do, first of all, let's get this to be kind of cooler. Rather than having input, we're going to go and make it an input statement. Sorry, input. What is the radius? And it doesn't really matter what the unit of measurement is. A little badooms, by the way, are other students talking right now in my chat, but that's fine. We'll ignore them. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cast that as a float. All right, so when I run this thing, it's going to be a little bit more exciting. Run it with what you know, right? Run it with the example you know first, and then see, does it still work? It still works. Awesome. Okay, so there's that. By the way, I imagine there'd be a print at the end of this too. So print the radius is, and I'm just going to put in the radius, the circumference. The circumference, not the radius. The circumference. I hope that's how it's spelled. Okay, so we go. It's going to say, what is it? I'm going to go 2. I'm going to go boom. The next, and the circumference is that. Okay, so far so good. We can in theory round it and all that, but I'm not going to bother at this point. I'm just trying to at this point show the functions. So what I could do here then is say, okay, this looks like it's kind of a cool way to get a circumference. So I'm going to create myself a function, which is going to be called, I tell you what, Sam went through the trouble of naming these things, so right there. Okay, so he went, by the way, I didn't bring this up in the previous one, but UDF, he's got user-defined functions. That's what he's doing there. And I get it. I don't know if I would do that, so I'm not going to. So now you get the benefit of having your two parents if you want talking. I'm just at this point, I totally get it for variables for sure. I'm not sure I would do that for functions. So I'm not gonna do it. Not doing it. All right. So anyway, so this is going to be. I'd rather with functions. What I like is to give them the name of what they're doing. So in this case, this is going to be get the circumference, and it's going to be passing in the radius, which is this case. I'm listening to Sam. Float radius. So it's going to get the float radius. And so what is this guy going to do? Well, it's going to return. And it's going to return this formula. Oh, look at that. Actually, I needed almost the same thing. Pretty cool. So it's going to return that formula. Return 2 times that. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to have a variable here, x dummy for now. X dummy is assigned, and it's going to use that function, get circumference. I'm going to pass in the flit radius. All right. You know what? Yeah. Okay. They're the same name, which certainly makes sense. But just for now, if you don't mind, guys, I'm going to do that. All right. Just so you guys, it's clear that this is one variable. This is another variable. So let's run it and see what damage we've done. So there's pi defined globally. Get circumference. It's now asking me for the circumference. I'm going to go 2. I'm going to hit the submit button, and it's worked out that we've left. Oh, I should have just get circumference. What I'm hoping to see is the return. Okay, so it's about to return there. I kind of skipped over that. Then it's going to come flying out, and that gets stuck in the dummy thing, and then it prints it. All right, so there. Except it didn't work because that is not dummy. That's why. All right, so good deal. Okay, so that is sort of a get circumference function. And so now it knows how to get their circumference. Notice that pi was defined globally, so it knew what pi was, because as we move forward in time here, pi is in the global frame, and this guy inside of get circumference. Yeah, it's about to do it. Get circumference. It does seem to know what anything in the global frame actually is. And so it worked it out. Now that's okay, but you know what? Let's not do that. Let's actually pass in pi. So we're going to pass in pi. All right, because you don't want to get in the habit of putting a bunch of crap up in the global frame. That's a bad practice. Jeez Louise. Must have hit that key by accident. So there's def, it's got to be lowercase, and then over here, this time I'm passing in both. Okay. So now what I can do is when I'm passing in this, I'm going to pass in the radius I got from the user, and I'm going to pass in pi. Good deal. All right. This should still work just great, except I got a syntax error because I forgot my colon. Somewhere along the line, I blew up my colon. Let's try that again. Get rid of my shame. Next. Oh, I put the 2 in there. Submit, and let's just go to the end and make sure that it worked. Okay, so it worked. Awesome. Good deal. One thing I don't like that 2 being right up against the prompt, so I'm going to put a space there too. Cool. Now, that is my circumference. Let's to go a little bit closer, what Sam is trying to do here, he's trying to basically say, hey, I'm not just going to write something that's going to get the circumference. I'm going to write a program that allows the person to determine, to use it to calculate the circumference, to calculate the area, to calculate, of a circle, of rectangles, triangles, and so on. So instead, what he's going to do is he's going to have sort of a menu, and then go through the menu. And if someone picks calculate the circumference, it's then going to run this. So let's get that going. Now, first, I think the first thing we're going to do, to be honest, is we're going to create ourselves our main function. So I'm going to go def main, which is not taking in anything. And the def main, at this point, its sole purpose is to calculate the circumference. And I tell you what, let's get a little bit cooler now. We're not going to go X dummy. I'm going to go back to this being the lit circ and copy paste. Okay. Remember, this won't run on its own unless you actually call it. So if I go run the execution and I go next, so there's pi in the global frame, here's main, and then off it goes in the main. Then it's going to ask the user input in the main. I go to, I go submit, I go next, going up to here. It's now about to work out. See that again in the global frame. There's where pi is, and my 2 pointers to my functions. Here's my main, which seems to remember what the radius is, but that's about it. Now in get circumference, it's got 2 for the radius, which it got from that. It's got pi, which it got from the global. It's worked out a number, which is it's about to spit back out, and out it comes. And now flip circ in the main remembers the circumference. Now it's about to print it. It prints it, and then when we get to the end, it then promptly forgets about everything, and out it goes. Right? Pretty cool. I'd be tempted to take main, take the pi out of the global and put it into main. So let's do that too. Let's do that too. Then we'll have a nice clean run. So even though I've been kind of trying to proselytize the idea of input, processing, output, each of your functions could kind of benefit the same too. If they're not super simple, this is pretty simple. So I don't necessarily need to have an input, processing, output. I'm kind of doing them all in one line there. But in this case, I kind of got sort of an input, a processing, and an output, right? So let's go a little bit further with this. I would say, to be honest, that no, I'm not going to. I'm not going to say that. Okay, what did Sam do again? He basically did this, calculating the circumference, and he put a lot of processing of the circumference in the menu. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Good. I love it. All right, let's write a quick program, a quick module that'll basically print out a bunch of, basically a bunch of prints. I'm going to pause the video and basically put this function into my code. All right, so what I did there is I kind of took a few liberties, but this is basically my version of what he did. I basically went print menu instead of calling it menu options, which is fine. Menu options is fine. And then there's a bunch of print statements. So let's run this thing first of all and see what happens. So we visualize the execution. Again, create something in the global frame. So right now it's just creating a bunch of functions in the global frame. And now with this main, it's about to run the functions. Notice that when I go to main, it goes to main, but at no point am I actually calling that function. So we're not actually going to see the benefits of my labor yet. I will tell you that some interpreters and compilers, so the things that will run the programs, they would notice this and they would start to give me a little warning saying, hey, you went through all this trouble to create this thing and yet you never use it. But this is just, this is not a production system here. This is just a demonstrating tool. So if I do want to actually use it, let's go ahead and put that print statement right, you know what, let's do it right there. Sure, print menu. Okay, so let's visualize the execution. We go next, next, next. So now it's about to go and run it. It defines, grabs a piece of memory in the main and calls it pi. Now, why did I put that in the main? Well, when I'm looking at some of the other things that Sam was doing here, pi is used in more than one spot. So I decided that pi should probably stay in main and then just get passed in, right? Rather than just putting it into the circumference function and then what would eventually become the area function. So that's why it's in main. So now it's about to go print menu, and it goes up here, and now it prints off my amazing, incredibly useful menu thing. All right, that's a good deal. And then it's just going to go about its business here and do the processing that we know. So now what I want to do is I want to go into a loop and ask the user, what do they want to do? Do they want to quit? Do they want to enter? Do they want to calculate the circumference, or do they want to do something else? So for that, I'll remind you, we've done this with the looping thing. We've done this with the processing thing. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to create myself a Boolean called continue. I'm doing this differently than what Sam did, but I'm doing it consistently with what I've done already. So I'm going to say to continue true. Remember, it's a Boolean variable type. I'm going to say while continue. I don't need to go as assigned true because that is implied here. Then what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to say while continue. I'm in danger now of accidentally creating an infinite loop. So I'm going to say at this point, to get myself safe, I'm going to say while this is equal to true, I'm going to assign it false. This will basically throw it into the infinite loop once, right? And I tell you what, let's take this stuff out and put it into there. Okay, so now this is all part of that loop. So I'm going to go run, and of course I did something wrong. Oh, I got a colon there. That's kind of dumb. Let's visualize it. Hide the shame. Next, 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 next. So off it goes. It's now about to go through the various prints, and then it's going to go while continue. So it's going into the loop because the guy is true. I'm going to say the radius is 2. I'm going to hit the submit button. It's going to go next. So now it does that basic processing. And now at this point, it's going to print it. It assigns it to false. And this is no longer true, so it's going to fall out. So at least I haven't created myself an infinite loop. I'm not really engaging the menu at this point, but at least I haven't created an infinite loop. So now what I could do is use some of this stuff. And so what I'm going to do here is I got to get something from the users to say, what do you want me to do? And so that's going to have to be a choice. And I'm going to call it, actually it's a string. So string choice, remember anything that comes out of input is going to be a string, is assigned input. What option do you want to do? And I'm not going to bother restating the 0 part. I'm just going to be happy there. So what option do you want me to do? Actually, let's put a little space. Let's learn something from a few minutes ago. So that'll be the string choice. And I'm going to basically say if the string choice is assigned, or if it's equal to, and it looks like 1 is the circumference. So if it's equal to 1, then it's going to do all this stuff. All right. And then tell you what, let's make it real simple at this point. Otherwise, if it's not 1, we're going to assume that we want to basically bail out. All right, so let's visualize execution again. And I'm going to really regret putting my header in there because I'm going to be going through that every single time, but that's fine. Let's go up here. Does all the various printing off the headers. We go down to here. Boolean, is it going to continue? Yes, because we've designed our program to fall into the loop first. So it's going to go into the loop. What do you want to do? I think I want to do the circumference. Thanks for asking. So I'm going to push the 1 button. I'm going to go. And so now the string choice is 1. Is the string choice 1? It seems to be. So it's going to go in. It's going to ask for the radius, which we've done. Let's go 2 again, testing the known case. It's going to then do all this exciting circumference stuff. Okay, and I should take a step back. So then it's going to do the print, right? So it's going to print, it's going to go next, it's going to go back up. Is this true? It is true. What do you want to do? Right? Because maybe we got some other stuff besides just the circumference we want to do. What do you want to do? And at this point, I don't think I want to do anything. I'm going to do 4. I'm going to hit the button there. So now string choice is 4. Is string choice 1? Is not. It's going to bail out. It's going to say this is false, and it's going to fall right out of the loop. All right, so that's pretty cool, and that's given us sort of what we're expecting here for the run. Remember, when you're programming, you want to do small incremental changes and build yourself up. And ideally, you'd want to flowchart this out first before you went any further. But a couple things I'm looking at right now that I'd probably want to do is I'd want to add a couple more lines, just blank lines between this. And I'd probably want to maybe start what option 1 line below as well. So what I'm going to do is just do some real cosmetic changes here. Up here in my header section, except I've got to do it in the editor, I'm going to add in those fabulous /ns. Those are awesome, and they'll give you basically that extra line. Over here in the input, I'm going to basically add a /n. What that's going to do is I'm just going to fly through this. So what that's going to do is give my output a little bit more space. So I'll do that. I'll hit the go button, and I'll get the 2, and now I'm going to say 4, which is what I did before. Hit the go button next, and all I meant to do there is look. It looks a bit better, right? That's all I meant to do there. Okay, so now that's cool. We got something that calculates the circumference. What if they want to calculate the area of a circle? What if they would like to do that? Okay, well, first of all, it's been a while for me for my math, so let's just have a quick peek. The area of a circle, according to Sam, is pi times the radius. That's apparently the area of a circle. So let's create ourselves a function that calculates the area of a circle. Def get area of circle. I got to do the circle part because that's, I guess, yeah, I'm starting to regret now. You could, in theory, get the circumference of a rectangle, circumference of a square. I probably should have had that get circ for a circle or something like that. So it's not super good. So my apologies for everybody there. That guy also uses, what does it use? It uses the radius and pi. That's all it uses. So it uses actually the same set up here, to be honest. So why reinvent that? Why risk the mistake of a copy paste error? And in this case, I'm going to return the formula, which is, can you believe it's been a hard day? Pi times radius. Pi multiplied by the radius. All right, good deal. That's why math's important, kids. So make sure you go and learn your math. So that is going to return the area. Awesome. So I've now taught this thing how to return the area. It'd be nice now if I actually used it here. So what I'm going to do is I need to do another if statement to handle the option of number 2. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go copy. We're going to go paste. I'm going to, by the way, tighten that up a little bit. I'm going to tighten that up a little bit. And this is going to say, it's not if, it's if or elif, as you remember from the control chapter. So elif. So it's still going to ask what the radius is, but the difference is now we're not going to go to get circumference. We're going to go to get area of circle. And this is really the float area. And then I'm going to basically say, hey, the area is that. All right, that's awesome. So we got ourselves a nice little bit of a control structure inside of a control structure inside of the main function. So let's run this dude and see where he goes. Again, a good instructor would have tested his code out before showing his shame, but by now you know that's not how I roll. What option do you want to do? I want to do their circumference. That's it. Let's get that a little bit more exciting. I would like to do the circumference, please. So we're going to go 1. I hit the go button. And so the choice is now 1. It should fly into there. I go next. And now it's asking me the radius question, which we know already. If I go 2, I'm expecting to get 12 something or other for the output. Yep, there it is, 12. Good deal. Now it's going to print the circumference. And now it finished that. It went up to here. Are we going to continue? There's no reason why we're not going to continue. It goes to the choice. What do you want to do? I'm going to go 2 because I've just, oh, guys. Here in the classroom by now, people would have started going, hey, Grant, you're wrong. And you're right, because I should have changed that to 2. That actually demonstrated an interesting thing I always meant to tell you guys. In the if statement, right, I'm saying is choice 1, else if choice is 1. They're both true, notice, but as soon as we go in here, the very first time I encounter something true, it does it and then leaves. So this code here would never get executed. And an interesting thing about, again, some interpreters and compilers is that they would actually catch that too. And they'd say, hey, just so you know, lines 30 to 33 will never get executed. But you can't depend on those. And I kind of blew it. So 2, right? I'm trying to do that to be the area of the circle. So 2. So let's visualize the execution again. And let's go through all that. So let's get our little menu showing up. Let's go down here. Let's get our choice. I want to do their circumference, which is 1. And it's going to ask me what the radius is, which is 2. And then we go down here. And okay, so now we're at the bottom of this choice. We're just about to print. We print. There's my circumference. Is this guy still true? He is. It's going to ask me for my choice. Now I'm going to go 2. Here's where I messed up last time. So I go 2. I hit the submit button. So the choice is 2. Is the choice 1? No, it's not. So it goes to our elif. Is that choice 2? It is. It goes in. What's the radius? I'm going to go 2. Probably should have tested that out to know what the good answer is, but I don't know what it is. So, so apparently the area of the circle is going to be 6.28, and out it goes. Let's have a look to see what do we look like so far. That looks good. That looks good. I'm going to go next. It's still going to be continue. What do you want me to do? Let's put in a number that doesn't make any sense, like 5. We hit the submit button, and string choice is not 1. It is not 2, so it's going to fall out. All right, good deal. Now, a few more things to make this thing cooler. I'm not going to bother going through the rigmaroles of the area of a rectangle or whatever. I'll just leave that for your imaginations. All right, but what else I'll do is this. First of all, if someone enters 0 or if someone enters a number I'm not expecting, I want to have 2 different results. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say elif the string choice is equal to 0. That's the there you go. If that's equal to 0, that also is a get out of jail free card. That basically says get out. Now, by the way, 2 ways I could do this. I could go and do a break, which means it would just fly right out of the loop completely. That would be fine. Or in this case, I'm trying to control it all logically because remember, I'm a big fan of one way in to the program, one way out. I don't like to have modules that you're flying out wherever you can, wherever you want and coming in wherever you want. That's too much like the kind of programming language I learned growing up, which was BASIC. So I like to have one way in, one way out. So in this case, if someone is saying, I absolutely want to go out, I'm going to say that's awesome. I'm going to indicate that they actually said that by saying goodbye. Okay, goodbye, and out they go. Okay, so that's that. Now, otherwise, if they haven't entered in a 1, a 2, or a 0, they obviously don't know what's going on. So instead of just basically bailing out of the program, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically say print print. So I'll tell them what they did. You entered, comma, and then get their choice. print invalid option. And what that'll do is it'll fly them right back up to the front. We can test this thing pretty quickly here, unless I made a mistake because I did put a colon. So visualize the execution. Good deal. And let's go. Oh my goodness. 2 mistakes here. Okay, so hold the phone. I meant to put the colon there, which I did. I must have somehow lost focus. So that's where the thing was. Okay, so there it is. There's that. Let's visualize, get rid of my shame, go through, get my header. We're now going in and saying, what do you want to do? At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 7, a number that doesn't make sense. I'm going to submit, and it's going to go through. That's not 7. That's not 7. That's not 7. And so now it's going to basically start telling me off. It's going to say you entered 7, invalid option, and now it's going to go back here. What do you want to do? I could put 1. I could put 2. I'm going to put 0 and see how that works. I'm going to submit. So now it's 0. So it's not 1. It's not 2. It is 0. So it goes in, prints goodbye, and now this is false, and then out it goes. All right, that's actually pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. One last thing to make this thing just a little bit cooler. I'm not going to complete all this stuff. In fact, I don't even think Sam did that, I think. But here's the deal. I want to explain this a little bit. This function doesn't return anything. I know it doesn't return anything. There's no return statement. You know it doesn't return anything. But what could happen in your brain if you're looking at it? You could be saying, does Grant know that doesn't return anything? Better sometimes to actually say that I know what I'm doing. Return nothing. Return nothing. Return none. And you do see Sam do that in his code right there. Return none. So at this point, even though that would have happened by default, we're telling future programmers, we know what we're doing. This function doesn't return anything. And so now, yeah, so if I visualize the execution there and spend a little bit more time looking at this guy, so he's about to print, and here's my print menu. Remember, there's like no memory usage at all. This is very, very, very light. It's about to return nothing. I've now actually said it's going to return nothing, and then bang. Good thing too, by the way, because this guy, if he did return something, it wouldn't go anywhere. In other languages, by the way, if you do have a function that returns something and there's nothing getting it, like for example, this guy here, string choice, is a bucket that's ready to receive whatever the function input returns. In some languages, in Python, if you left out that, you wouldn't get a syntax error. You'd get effectively a runtime or logical error, right? Because you wouldn't get the benefit of whatever the person put into the input. But I guess what I'm saying is that in Python, it's better if you are being explicit. If you're basically saying to people, yes, I know what I'm doing. We're going to return nothing. And so up here, anyone looking at this, they'll know, yeah, this is not returning anything. All right. So let's test out my 0 again with this big submit, and let's just fly to the end, and there we go. All right, that's actually not too bad, and that was sort of my almost complete explanation as to what Sam did on that particular program. There's one more piece, and that's coming up next once I figure out how to pause or stop. Actually, this is it for this one. We'll look at the next thing in the next idea in the next video.